Hello friends, family, and other creatures of the sea. Welcome back to a best of 3 from the Kung Fu Cup. As you can see, the Chinese sponsors and the Chinese characters on the screen. This is indeed the live feed that I have to follow. I can't access all of these replays, sadly. It's kind of relaxing for me. Don't have to click anything. Can complain about the observing. And a fantastic game. Nightmare currently, in my mind, the second best Protoss player in Korea, just behind Hero. I think he's someone that's been practicing a lot. Whenever I talk with other Koreans and I ask them like who's playing a lot, who right now is like a rising star, and all of them they'll mention Nightmare. Like, this guy is grinding day and night. He's ready to go. He's already done his military service. He's done it pretty early in his 20s. I want to say when he was 21, maybe even when he was 20 or 19, did his military service, and as a result he now has a lot of time, a lot of freedom, and he knows what he wants. He wants to become the best Korean StarCraft 2 player, or just the best StarCraft 2 player in general. And he's been working on that. He's been getting better. The current patch, of course, quite decent for Protoss, especially in a Protoss versus Zerg matchup, which is something where Nightmare had been struggling before. And now that isn't the case as much anymore, now that he doesn't struggle quite as hard there, he's been rising. He absolutely has been. Let's see how he's going to open up here against BYUN. BYUN, one of the more solid Terran players. It's so hard to rate BYUN because of his inconsistency throughout even just a week or a day. Like, he can be wildly inconsistent in results and level of execution. But generally, I'd say, what do we have? We have like Maru and Clem above him, and then BYUN, Cure at a very similar level. And I personally struggle harder with BYUN than I struggle with Cure, so rate him a little bit above that. So the top 3 Terran in the world, I think, is not a over-exaggeration. It's gonna be a good match, hopefully. Nightmare always impresses me with his PvT abilities. He really does. Just good execution of just good build orders, decent build orders. He's a decent man, you know? Just does things the right way, and I like to see it. I do like to see that. Matter of fact, moving across the map. I'm not quite sure what this opener was. The timing based, based on the timings that I'm seeing here of drops hitting, it almost feels like a gas first opener coming out of BYUN. We have a Raven plus tank follow-up, which is a solid follow-up, by the way, against 4-gate Blink. And that's the build that we're seeing here out of Nightmare. Here we go. Mine is heading in. Is it going to get any fat hits? Yeah, actually is. Fat hit there on a single probe. Good start for Nightmare. This is exactly what you want. There's not going to be a mine threat anymore. This medevac with 6 Marines probably needs to return back home. It's taken too much damage as the Raven now starts moving across the map. Where's the Prism? Where is the Prism? Second Observer on the way is not what I had quite expected. It's gonna go for charge here instantly. This game is not at all going how I expected it. Because he invested heavily, Nightmare that is, into 4 gateways. Okay, he's going for 4 gas. 4 gate. 3rd Nexus at not a late timing, not an early timing, just at a timing. Let's add in 3 more gates here. Rapidly. Work account not looking good for Nightmare. And that is something we have to keep in mind. Is that what Nightmare is doing here is basically a defensive all-in on his own 3rd. This is something that I've seen Korean players do very frequently. Guys like Hero, Creator, Nightmare, they love this type of setup. Basically what they say is like, hey, I'm getting a Nexus much earlier than you do. But I'm also going up the Storm, and I'm going to be skipping my Fortress for a little while. And I'm cutting a lot of workers here. So the Nexus, it isn't fake, it is still there. The Terran might feel the need to attack into it. And if they attack into it, and they attack in one big push with one big push, they could be in some trouble. The reason why they could be in some trouble is because there's just going to be a lot of units. There's going to be high army supply here for Nightmare, with just powerful tech that's going to kick in soon as well. We have the Prism on the way. We have the Templar that are going to be occupying the Prism, as 5 Stalkers are now on the bottom side of the map waiting for that medevac that is moving towards the very bottom, or along the bottom line here. on-site delta. And I think these Stalkers are actually just going to find that medevac. There we go. It's going to go down. Absolutely. 2 volleys and boom. It's gone. Minus 10 supply. Instantly. Nightmare now says, hey, after you lose that medevac, if you still decide to attack me, you're in trouble. I can throw down a forge. Maybe even double forge as a follow-up. And see what I can do on the other side of the map. And this turns in from a defensive all-in kind of into just an actual all-in. BYUN still at a decent worker supply. He's gonna get his upgrades up. It's nowhere close near having Ghost, which is going to be the unit that will allow him some freedom of movement on the map. And here comes Nightmare. He's moving into position. As the first storms are not brilliant. Templars moving next to the tanks so that the tanks can shoot him. Storms do end up hitting quite a bit. We get a blink forward. Will snipe the full medevac as Nightmare with some good pickups here. Still no upgrades. Has a fort base on the way. No follow-up available quite yet. Auto turret harass here is forcing a full probe pull away. What else are we looking at here? We have an Archon. We rebuild some Templar. We still don't have a Ghost Academy, and without a Ghost Academy, without a... Oh, no, we do, because there's a Ghost on the way already, my bad. Okay, with Ghost out and with a sufficient mine count, we might be capable of saturating our third base. Might being an absolute keyword there, because I'm not so sure. Second forge coming in, as well as a Robo Bay. So the transition has started. Still on a low worker count, though, you see that? 63. 63 workers, which is fine because the opponent doesn't have his third base saturated quite yet. You can always add more probes in the oncoming minutes. Do we have a prism with this? Yeah, we do. 3 Templar and a prism. That's what I'm feeling here. Cheeky little 8 Zealot warp in. That's what I'm feeling here. 4 more gates finishing up. So the next warp in is going to be with what? 12 Zealots? That's the type of stuff that I like. I think this has some serious potential. The way you want to engage is by sending some Zealots into the mineral line, forcing the army to get there, and then when the army is vulnerable away from the mines, you try to utilize your storms. Zealot flank coming in from the bottom. Start of this fight has not been brilliant here. It really has not been. Prism also falls, which doesn't add a lot here for Nightmare. 15 SCVs do end up going down though, so those 3 Zealots, 4 Zealots that got split off, putting in serious work, but the rest of the fight was handled in an amateur way. Amateur moves there. Fort base is done though. We don't have an armory on the way for BYUN. We just have more Ghost. We have more Marauders, more Medevacs. And I personally believe that Nightmare at this point has such an insane infrastructure, such good mineral mining, that if he ever finishes his 2-1 upgrades, I don't really see a way for BYUN to kind of get back into this game. The lack of a prism is hurting. Triple medevac drop is a good move too. There's a lot of risk. I mean, this is a risky move, don't get me wrong, but if a risky move works out, that's a good move. Double feedbacks will come down. That means 2 of these medevacs will not be capable of healing. It's a pretty big deal. Stalker's being taken out. We don't have a recall available in the main base. There's no EMP in this army, which surprises me. I think a single Ghost here could have put in some serious work. That's a slow warp in. Forge with +2 attack is gonna get sniped. BYUN realizes that the army is being pulled back and is gonna send his secondary force across the map as well. If we can get a pickup and get out of here with all of our units, that would be huge. Mines attacking the Zealots. 150 supply to 150. BYUN is evening it up. Still doesn't have an armory or second eBay. At least I haven't seen them in production yet. Maybe they're done already. That's possible. Fort base is being built. And look at that supply. Very, very close again all of a sudden. Good moves here out of BYUN. But he's still behind. He's being outmined, especially when it comes to the minerals. In a big, big way. And with 12 gateways on the map, these gateway unit boosts into this push are going to be a serious issue. Storm still available as well. I do believe that the 3 medevacs are going back into the main base of Nightmare right now as this fight is going down. Can we get a Templar drop here? Yes, we can. That's 1, that's 2 storms, that's 3 storms, that's 4. As they're covering the Terran force. And despite BYUN's counter-attack that I think got thwarted here in the main base of Nightmare, Nightmare manages to win game number 1. Game number 2 will be played here on Alcyone. You start with a pylon wall. Impressive game, honestly, out of Nightmare. Good movement with the units. I think the only disappointing thing there was the fight. The initial fight I think wasn't so great. I think they have more potential. Maybe it was the second fight. Maybe the initial fight was okay. You see, he was in a good spot. He really was in a good spot. Interesting build as well. 4-gate Blink Stalker into 4-gate charge, 4 gas with Fast Templar. It's a rare build order to see. Not gonna lie, it's a rare build order to see. Nonetheless, a cool one. I did like it. So what do we have over here? Double gas coming out of BYUN this time around. So one of the more popular builds that we have seen utilized in, I want to say, the past 2-3 weeks is the kind of single Reaper, double gas opener, 6 Marine Mine, Cyclone, and kind of using that force. And we've seen some beautiful control coming out of Terran players with that. Picking up individual Marines, picking up Cyclones, dodging Stalker shots, that type of stuff. It's really been nice to watch, I'm not gonna lie. It's been a pleasure. Absolutely. The question that I have is that what BYUN does? BYUN plays a little bit different. He's still pretty heavy into the gas mining here as well. Usually you pull at least 3 workers out of gas the moment your factory starts. BYUN here kept all workers in gas but 1. So that's an economic difference here. The economic reality of BYUN is going to be very different from what we usually see. Okay, now he's pulled out into 2-1, so that makes sense. Gets the CC down. I'm curious, kind of how he's going to maneuver from here on out. To get that first, that probe doesn't quite get it. We see a low ground Stargate. Very difficult to spot. Hellion, Reactor. Ooh. Okay. Now this is a cool build. Okay. This is one of these builds that I think gets underrated by both Protoss players and Terran players. Especially some of the lower level Terran players. And then I'm not talking about diamond level Terran players, but lower pro gamers. So someone that isn't Clem, someone that isn't BYUN, someone that isn't Cure or Maru, you know? These top 4 or 5 guys, they love this build, and for a good reason. Because it is difficult to hold it while also having a generally competitive build for Protoss. You're going to need a battery. This battery, I think, is going to be a bit too late. The push hits at 3 minutes and 28 seconds, depending on the size of the map. Here it's going to maybe even be 3:30. So this battery is simply too late. He's not going to have a wall. You can bounce these units away with Reapers and then run past them. Or, if you believe that there's no Oracle, you can try to fight this. I'm generally a bigger fan of bouncing this away and going for kills on workers. BYUN tried to go for kills on Adepts, and he's definitely paying the price. This Hellion now is running by. I really think the best play to go for, 90% of the time, is to just bounce units and then boom, go into the main, kill 4, 5, 6 workers. If you get 4 worker kills with this move out, I think you're in a really good spot as a Terran player. I actually think you're just ahead. Period. And pretty freaking far ahead as well. Because you also have the medevac follow-up. We're going to have a Cyclone push as the follow-up. So that might be the reason why he wanted to focus on clearing Adepts, but it definitely didn't work. Double Cyclone plus Liberator. This is a bad start for BYUN, absolutely. This is also getting spotted. Phoenix doesn't go down, but takes a whole lot of damage. Twilight Council starts. Pre-third base, which is... it's rare to see. Kind of crazy. That is kind of crazy. Is he once again just planning on going for quick Templar Archives? That would be wild. Because he's only on 3 gas as well, so I'm just gonna say no to that. That's not it. Stim on the way already. 2 more Cyclones coming in. You know how scary this is if you're Nightmare? Getting no confirmation as to what your opponent is doing. You're afraid to move the Phoenixes across the map due to a harass unit showing up in your main or natural. You end up losing like 3-4 workers and having to recall the Phoenixes. It sucks, it's really bad for you. But now he just doesn't know what is being produced. So we see a Robo, we see a Nexus, we see Charge, but we also have continuous Stalker Warpins. And honestly, He's doing a good job. Ooh, what? That's kind of a wild attack, isn't it? That is a... What is this? I am shocked by this attack. I really am, as a lot of adepts here are being taken out. Gonna finish up their shade. I think this should be a recall. I think this has to be a recall, because otherwise he's gonna be losing at least a couple of these adepts, no? It's gonna be minus 1, 2, 3 adepts there still going down in the end. And Nightmare's maneuvering this so well. I feel like he's done this as well as you possibly can. There's no extra barracks yet. Just now they're starting. Oh, never mind. That's barracks 4 and 5. Okay, well, in that case, BYUN not that bad. Because he has decent eco. That's the one thing Nightmare didn't do well, right? Is he prioritized unit production over eco. Yeah, BYUN already has barracks 2 and 3. Is this the end of the world? I don't think so. Losing that Liberator sucks, though. It really does. What you can do here as a Terran. Zealot's already being warped in. Forge on the way. Double E-base coming out of the Terran. Nobo Bay. I often feel like when Protoss is building this many upgrades and structures at the same time, it leaves a pretty fat window for the Terran to deal damage. But looking at the supplies, maybe I should not be so worried about that. These adepts getting another 5 worker kills as well is actually a pretty big deal. Adepts are practically useless in your army, but if they can get worker kills, that's great. Second Robo now on the way. The only thing that's missing is like a fort base. So he's basically taking all the risk at the same time. But once this period ends, he's going to be banging out Colossus, gonna have pretty decent upgrades. Usually TOS is a bit behind in upgrades, so this is fine-ish. Nightmare taking a fort, yeah. This feels like it makes sense to me. It really does. Ghost Academy coming in. Triple Depot. BYUN with a pretty gnarly supply block here. The Phoenix count isn't crazy high, so I'm not expecting this to kill like 15 more SCVs, but you can pick off an occasional SCV, that's still nice. Observer here, scanning around, figuring out what's going on. Gonna get 2 Marines, which actually is really neat. Gonna get a Marauder, maybe even a second Marauder, which also is just really neat. SCVs, yes sir. More Marines. These Phoenixes are being fed over here. One will go down, but these are good trades, absolutely. Supply also just looking very healthy here for Nightmare. And I am curious to see how BYUN's going to approach this fight. He thinks he can attack into this. I think these Zealots should be pulled back. I don't think these Zealots are providing any serious value here in the engagement. Mainly just dying. This is giving BYUN a much better fight than he ever should have gotten. Well, why is he allowed to just kite these Zealots all the way back home? This is not correct. This is just not correct. No way. No. Yeah. I think this should have been fought with just the Stalker Colossus. The Zealots should have been in the back, or they should have been going in for a run-by or for a flank. But here we had literally 20 Zealots go down to the kiting in a confusing move, to be honest, out of Nightmare. A confusing move out of Nightmare I don't quite appreciate. If there is no hard target you can hit with the Zealots, they're often just getting kited to death. And what I mean with a hard target is something like a tank that is there, or if you can come in with a flank from 2 sides with Zealots, or even just from 1 side with Zealots, it can often be very good. If you just come from the back and you force them into the Colossus, that's a pretty big deal. Colossus often have a super battery as assistance. Prism heading into the main. Beautiful movement here, by the way. Holy crap. He's gonna get caught by reinforcement. That is a very unlucky timing, because now this army is actually looking quite squishy. There are ghosts, there's a lot of marauders, we have Vikings out. It's a squishy little army. We have +2 coming in as well for our Protoss player, who is still stuck on 4 bases. Well, still stuck, I mean, he's up a base. But he doesn't have that many workers, and is also being outmined due to the fact that mules exist. This feels much more all-in than I think it needs to be. Gonna get a sniper on that first disruptor. Viking count is continuing to grow. So we're about to hit kind of a turning point in this game is when, I think, first of all, when 2-2 finishes up, that is a major turning point because it's going to be a 3 upgrade deficit from the Protoss point of view. And second of all, the Viking count, like once that hits like 6 to 8, those are serious numbers where Colossus are starting to fall much quicker. In combination with EMPs, most definitely. Okay, that Observer gets taken out. I am so afraid when Nightmare makes moves like this. Loving the Zealot run by, so I think this is great. That is a great use of the Zealot. That's exactly how you want to be using it. Long range unit in the main army. Kind of capable of zoning with disruptors, making sure you can't get chased. And then these Zealots for finding weakness elsewhere. Get a blink forward here. This is 2-2 versus +1. Disruptors are going to need to put in some serious work. If the Viking count here was 6, I'd say we fight. Now you're going to need some good EMPs and a nice position. Like you need to come from 2 sides in order to properly engage this, I think. I don't think you can just chase this army. I don't think it's possible. So these rocks going down is potentially bad here for Nightmare. He is really far out on the map. There's no prism reinforcement. And it's 2-2. Okay, here goes BYUN. Look at the micro. Look at the control. 2 Purification Novas. 1 is going to hit a decent chunk of army. That's a big deal. Another Purification Nova on the left side is going to get dodged. This Purification Nova doesn't really hit anything. And the next one doesn't hit anything either. And this is where the Prism could come in handy by warping in a bunch of Zealots to tank for these expensive Robo units. But those Zealots, they simply aren't here. And as a result, Disruptors are all gonna fall. This Colossus is going to survive. No, also goes down in the last millisecond that the Colossus was still on this side of the map before the recall comes through. And this is such a classic PvT scenario, is where the Protoss attacks and gets absolutely destroyed, loses all of the Robo units, and despite still having decent supply, the problem is in the speed of rebuilding those important Protoss units. Like, it's not like 134 supply to 150 is not, oh my god, I'm dead territory. But only having 2 disruptors when you're fighting against Ghost, that is, oh, I am dead territory. So I'm just really afraid. All medevacs stayed alive. Vikings have died, but there's no rebuilding of Colossus here. I think the Marauder count is also too high for that. And if we get a bio count of like maybe 180 supply or so with this type of medevac count, with these upgrades, don't forget it's still 2-2 versus just +2. Disruptor number is 4. Like, that's not enough. Something that BYUN can also consider doing is going for a split of army here. That would be really powerful if you are fighting against just pure Disruptors. Disruptors not great at splitting up. Zealots here being taken out are just gonna straight up die. Not really getting anything done. We don't have a Prism out on the map. That really cost Nightmare in that last fight, not having a Prism there, and now it really is costing him as well, in that he can't go for a counterattack with Zealots. He wants to get rid of these Zealots somehow, some way. BYUN is not giving him the opportunity yet. Here comes the Purification Novas. Kills a mine. Left side army is kind of snaking around as well. Kills a Purification Nova that hits something at least. So that Disruptor almost gonna fall. 3-3 about to complete as we have a lot of the Gateway units taking a bit of a beating before the Disruptors show up. Far from ideal when it comes to engaging into this force. Good split. Very neat split. Disruptors just struggling so much at catching any percentage of this army. It's crazy. EMP misses completely. 3-3 versus +2. So this Gateway force is pointless. Like it's not going to be capable of dealing any serious damage, right? The way that they're going to be dealing damage is by hitting Disruptor shots. But good luck hitting Disruptor shots against BYUN. It's going to get 2 Marauders here. Actually pushing this force back is impressive. This is a scary area. This is a scary area. Nightmare, be so careful here. You're very deep into enemy territory, and now that's I think the last Purification Nova. Oh, this is scary. I really think an army split out of BYUN here would be perfect. Yeah, this is perfect. This is exactly what you want, because splitting disruptors is not possible. They'll just get sniped. BYUN tries to move in at the same time on the other side. This left side base just simply gonna die. As a result, the Protoss tries to jump on top of this army. Medevacs stay alive. A portion of those Marauders and Marines are now baiting gateway units towards the bottom side. And I mean, this is good for BYUN. This is absolutely good for BYUN. It's going to be 4 base versus 5 base in favor of the Terran. That's the last thing you want as a Protoss player. Colossus being added in is going to make these splits a little bit easier to execute. I'm not quite sure what BYUN is thinking he's doing here. Starting to add in some more Vikings. I think that can be done at a higher pace of 4 at a time. The moment you get 8 Vikings here, this army is once again going to disappear. 170 supply to 150. Purification Nova's not going to hit anything. More Purification Novas being sent out. Nightmares finding the space to move across the map, and Disruptors in an aggressive position where there's something to hit and you can just endlessly run away are actually really scary. Once again, no Prism though, which ain't great. Not really. Depots being taken out. Here comes a surround. Zealots could function as some type of meat shield here. Viking count isn't big enough, but do we have enough Purification Novas? We have one that hits. Second one also kind of hits, but I think the upgrades and the army and the quality of the army that BYUN has here is just going to be a little bit too big. 1 snipe, 2 snipe, and he's still on top. As it's 106 versus 154 supply in favor of our Terran player. Upgrades heavily in favor of the Terran, as there are no armor ups for the Zealots or the Stalkers. And that means that this Bioforge is gonna rip through them. The help of the Medevacs keeping them alive. GG gets called. BYUN ties it up. And really, despite the poor ending in that game, it felt like Nightmare for long portions was quite in control. He got some map control. He had the ability to do things. I think the upgrades are always an issue for him, obviously, because he was seriously lacking upgrades. That's generally an issue. Ooh. BYUN here with a reactor first into factory. So I'm kind of expecting like a 4 Reaper to Hellion. That's the most common build of a reactor first double gas, I think. That actually does hit like a freaking truck as well, can I say? Yeah, I can say. That is so difficult to deal with. Like, there's so many units so early on. You need to have a battery in time, or some type of oracle. Very good unit count. I'm shocked that these types of builds, like these heavy Reaper Hellion pressures, are not as popular as they once were, especially against players that enjoy building Stalkers. I think if you open up Triple Adept, which is what happened last game, Protoss is going to be in a much better position, because Triple Adept, they can one-shot Reapers. So if there's 3-4 Reapers, you can shoot 2 and you have a shade and stuff like that. It's generally fine, but with Stalkers, it takes a while to even get a Reaper down. Like two Adepts and a Stalker don't do it. I think even 2 Adepts and 2 Stalkers don't one-shot a Reaper, but I might be wrong about that. Yeah, it's going to be 4 Reaper, 2 Hellion here. Good luck. That's all I can really say. Battery starts at 306. Remember the timing I mentioned last time. It's about 328, 330 that we hit. 306 battery finishes at 335. So it's going to be pretty much as the fight is happening. We'll be in time to deal with any serious problems that the that these Adepts and Hellions are going to give you. And I think this, once again, just giving up here. I'm shocked by the execution. I really am. I expected a much more committed play here to going for probes. It's surprising to me. It really is. I had not expected this whatsoever. Wow. Okay. This went really much better for Nightmare than I dared hoping. I still believe that. I mean, the thing is, it's scary for Terran, right? You have to give up, what, 1-2 units while you're running through, but then there's no defense in the main base. Because you know that there is a Reaper wall, which means there can't be a pylon plus battery in the main. So it's like you're guaranteed gonna get 3-4 worker kills, which I think is better than taking out an Adept. I mean, as a Protoss player, Adepts are nice in the first 4 minutes, but after that, if you can get any value for them, that's great. So here, trading them for 2 Hellions and a Reaper for 1 Adept, yeah. Any day of the week, mate. It's a great trade for Adept, man. Great trade. Observer's gonna scout these Reapers in the middle of the map. Stalkers can come from behind or from the side. BYUN saw that he was being spotted by the Observer and is now moving back. Stalkers far on the map. This is going to be a 2-base kind of charged Stalker all in, which is extremely rare. Kind of a cool build though. Not gonna lie, I like this. This blink attack is gonna literally be capable of doing nothing. I'm not calling it the worst blink stalker attack in the world, but it's definitely not the best. Delayed third Nexus again. Seems to be the name of the game here for Nightmare. This is a serious push out, by the way. Pre-stim, pre-combat. There's a tank here. Nightmare's finding somewhat of a sweet spot. But how much of a sweet spot is this really? You're damaging a refinery. Don't think BYUN's going to be losing a lot of sleep over that. Just going to repair these structures. Now the tank moves in forward. And because of that big investment in infrastructure, Nightmare, despite not having great eco, also doesn't have a lot of units yet. Like, that's gonna come now in the next 20 seconds. He's gonna get those fat 6-unit warplanes. That's what we're waiting for, but bunkers being constructed. Okay. Charge is finishing up in 6 seconds. That is actually very beneficial. That's the second tank that goes down against the poor Stalkers. Kind of sloppy out of BYUN, who is extremely all in with this, by the way. Lots of SCVs being pulled offline as well. We still have the triple Reaper potentially for some grenade usage. Here comes the Stim. And here comes the Zealot flank from the top side eventually as well. He's focusing heavily on the bunkers rather than the unit that could potentially go into the bunkers, as the Zealots do get to connect, but there's still quite a bit of bio remaining. Both of these tanks stay alive as well. Will one of them die? No. Neither of them goes down. And now we have the SCVs coming in to repair. More Marauders and Marines moving across the map as well. It's 46 workers to 29. So very favorable for Nightmare. But the problem isn't so much the worker count. The problem is the army supply, which is 36 against 16. Reaper still coming in handy. It's going to be a triple Archon attack here. The triple threat. As 1 or 2 Reapers end up falling. It's pure Marauder. Don't think you can pull probes into 2 tanks, mate. Absolutely not. And we're gonna need something out of Nightmare here to deal with this. Don't forget, BYUN is still extremely all in on 33 workers. No upgrades behind this. If this gets cleaned up and the Nexus stays alive, I don't even really mind the position that much here for Nightmare. But he does need to clean it up first. Another stim is being used. Nexus is falling, and now... I mean, this is too late. This needed to happen a while ago, this attack, but I don't quite think it's going to be good enough. GG gets called. BYUN wins the series. And that, my dear friends, is going to be it for me today. Thanks all so much for watching. Hope you did enjoy this. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see all of you next time for a new video. Bye-bye.